And how's it going, Elder Scrolls Nation? It is Skullzi here with the latest and the greatest Bethesda Games Studios news. The news that we're going to be talking about today is a bit of a continuation from the video that I did yesterday where I broke down an interview between Eurogamer and Pete Hines, in which they talked about a lot of awesome and interesting stuff, everything from Fallout 76 to how Bethesda will handle multiplayer in their games in the future, to a release date window for Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6, and at the end of the interview, some interesting and awesome stuff about the next generation of gaming consoles and what he thinks will happen with the PS5 and the Xbox whatever, and maybe even the Nintendo eventually. Now, if you haven't seen my video that I uploaded yesterday, I highly suggest you watch that video before continuing forward with this one, because it broke down the whole interview and mainly focused on the awesome and interesting news that Pete Hines gave us about release dates planned for Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6. You can do that by clicking on the screen now, or look for a link down in the description below. But as I said, towards the end of the interview, there were a few paragraphs and a few things that Pete Hines said that was pretty interesting about the next generation of gaming consoles, so I took these paragraphs and we're gonna break it down paragraph by paragraph. There's not a lot of information here, but what is here is pretty important, and I wanted to share it with you all, especially because Bethesda, and more importantly, Pete Hines has been talking a lot about the next generation of gaming consoles, and I think there's kind of a little trend, or maybe a hidden plan, that Bethesda has going on here. So here's the first question: what do you think the next generation of consoles hardware will bring? And Pete Hines says that he thinks that streaming technology is gonna be a huge thing among the console manufacturers when it comes to the PS5, the Xbox whatever, and the Nintendo eventually, meaning streaming is not only going to obviously be part of the next generation of gaming technology, but it's probably going to be more advanced and expanded beyond that. I've heard rumors of there being ways to play entire games being streamed to you to where you don't have to download anything, and the console or device just pretty much processes the memory and CPU of the game. Everything else is handled by a computer elsewhere, meaning the GPU, the graphics, and everything else is actually streamed to you from a server somewhere, but I doubt that that's going to happen, especially in the next generation, maybe like 5 console generations from now. That sounds like some pretty high-tech stuff, but what Pete Hines says is he thinks streaming and streaming technology is going to be a very large part of the next generation of gaming consoles, and then he goes on to say something very, very, very interesting, which kind of goes along with what the situation has been going between Bethesda and Sony. He says here that he's very, very happy about Sony's news last week about crossplay, because it seems that they're going to open up and embrace not only crossplay, but cross-platform progression. And that is super interesting, because that is something I haven't actually thought of when I've been talking about crossplay this whole time. And I think that crossplay and cross-platform progression is one of the secret things that Bethesda Game Studios, and more importantly Bethesda Softworks, has been trying to lead the gaming industry into doing as a mainstream thing. I think that's their ultimate goal, and I'll get into that here more in a second. But you can see Pete Hines goes on to say that he wants cross-platform progression to be a major thing in the next generation of console technology. He wants to take all of his achievements, all of his progression, all of his stats, everything from one console to another. That way you don't lose any of your progress and your stats in a game just because they're playing it on another console. He goes on to say here that it's something that him and Todd Howard have actually been thinking of and probably have had planned for a long time. Because Todd Howard says he envisions a magical, utopian future where everybody doesn't have to buy a game specifically for a console. It's like a DVD player. You don't have to buy a DVD for a Sony DVD player, because that same DVD will work in a Panasonic DVD player as well. You see what I'm saying? There's no actual console-related requirement for DVDs, and Todd Howard and Pete Hines wants that to be the norm for the next generation of gaming technology, or eventually just gaming in general. That way, when you buy a game, you own that game for the PlayStation, you own that game for the Xbox, you own that game for the Nintendo eventually, or whatever it's gonna be called. And I actually think this is a pretty golden future in terms of gaming. I'm actually excited, and I would love that. Now, I do know this is kind of like, has to do with the digital thing that they were trying to do during this current generation, when this generation of gaming came out, when the PS4 and the Xbox One was announced. They originally wanted all games to be digital, but the community wasn't really ready for that. But I can nod as how that would be useful, but I would love a physical copy of the game that would work on every single console, but I don't think that would work. What I think Pete Hines is secretly saying here is he really, really, really wants games and the next generation of gaming technology to be all digital. That way, you don't have to worry about what console you own a game on. But he wants it to go even further, because if you buy a game on Xbox Live, I think he wants you to be able to go to the PlayStation Network and play that game there as well on a Sony console. Now, that sounds crazy, and I don't know how that would work, or if that would work exactly, but I do like what Pete Hines is saying with crossplay and, more importantly, cross-platform progression. Towards the end of the interview, he goes on to say that, yeah, he does nod that there is kind of a community aspect to the PlayStation's fan base and then the Xbox fan base, but he says that the gaming industry seems to be behind, because like I said earlier, DVD players and Blu-ray players don't do this, TVs don't do this, computers don't generally do this. It seems the gaming industry is really built and structured structured around owning a very specific console, and that is something I think Pete Hines and more importantly Bethesda wants to stop. And I think that's why they've been stirring up all this drama about crossplay, because I think that they have a secret agenda, like I said, to push the gaming industry towards cross-platform play and cross-platform progression to be the norm and mainstream thing, and maybe even what Todd Howard was saying about when you buy a game, you own it for every system. Now, as always, I want to know what you have to say about all of this down in the comments below. What do you think about Bethesda's secret plan to take over the gaming industry with cross-platform progression? Let me know down in the comments below, and if your comment wins the internet, it may be featured in a future video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay in the know when it comes to next-gen gaming news and Bethesda Game Studios news. Follow me on Twitter for the latest channel updates and random shit about me and the occasional meme once in a while. Check out my Twitch channel where I am a Twitch affiliate, and I will soon be streaming again once I get a better webcam. And if you want to have your hand in providing future content and defending the channel by standing as a warrior amongst the community, then consider subscribing to the channel on Patreon, where you can not only earn unique and awesome awards, but unlock behind-the-scenes daily content about the channel and future videos. And check out the channel Discord, where there is always a conversation taking place. It's a pretty awesome chat room. I have a lot of stuff set up, a lot of categories, and a lot of awesome content going on over there as well. And as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when Bethesda wants to just put the games right into your head.
Bye, have a great time.